Hey everybody, you're listening to 95.1 KBCM, Monarch Radio, the voice of Valley College, streaming 24/7 at kbcm.live and on Twitch at Monarch Radio. You're listening to DJ Starlight, and this is The Blender, where we mix things up around here. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and my mother in particular, my grandmother in Maryland, and my other grandmother in North Carolina. Love you guys and hope you have an awesome day. Well, today's topic is all about moms. And joining me today is my special guest, Philip Suba.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me back again.
Thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Always enjoy being here. Thank you.
So I know that both of our moms are thousands of miles away.
Yes.
So with that being said, would you like to give a shout out to your mom?
Yes, I would love to wish her a happy Mother's Day. I spoke to her this morning, actually, but I don't mind saying it again, and I hope she has a great Mother's Day as well as all of my other friends and relatives that are mothers today.
Awesome. Yes, that's so the topic today is all about how what does it mean to really be a mother? Do you have to have birth a child to be a mother to a person? And my answer is no, you don't. You could be mothers come in different forms. The community, you have a community of mothers. You have teachers. You have, your aunts. You have different people that play roles as mothers. They don't have to be necessarily your mother. How do you feel about this?
I think that's true too. I mean, there are definitely a lot of female figures in my life that I look up to. Not just my mother, but primarily her, but even her sisters. I'm very close to both of those aunts. As a matter of fact, I was just with one of them this weekend, and I grew up with her too. But I even have cousins in Canada that migrated from the Philippines, and they're always someone special that were going to be part of my lives, and I really appreciate them.
And I agree with that, because I'm one of those aunts that have special, nieces and nephews that I'm not their, I'm like I call them my nephew sons.
Yes.
Because I'm like a mother figure to them,
but
I'm also like a sister.
Yes.
I'm also like, and that's actually which is what one of my nephews said to me. He goes, "You're like a sister, you're like a mother, you're like a friend." So, it could be, you don't have to have a child to be able to say you're mothering them.
Very true.
And my definition of mother is a nurturer, a teacher, and a friend. All of those to me is the definition of mother.
I agree. And you know what? Even with all of that, though, I will say there is nothing like the love of a mother. And you never outgrow the love
That is so true.
of a mom.
I
Never
so
do.
agree with that.
Yes.
I so agree with that. Especially the fact that I have a close relationship with my mother in particular. She's always been such a wonderful inspiration to me, a teacher. And, it's just been and she's got that same bonding relationship with her grandkids. So I always say, you have that relationship with your mother, she passes it on to them, they pass it on to theirs, and it goes on and on. So how was your relationship with your mom?
Admittedly, we had a very rocky relationship when I was growing up. Sometimes it was good and sometimes it wasn't good. But I'm going to say that in the last 4 to 5 years, our relationship has changed so much, and for the better.
Oh, wonderful.
Too. I think that it had a lot to do with just accepting things. I think that there were things that I thought that I should have in a mother, and instead of accepting the person that she is, which is really a very wise and practical and loving mother in her own way, that is when I started to really embrace what it meant when people said that there is nothing like the love of a mother. So our relationship is much better now. I feel that she's accepted me for a lot of things, and we're like best friends almost.
Oh, wow.
And also still having that mother-son relationship.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's special. That is special. And see, it's always good to either close that space, or if it doesn't work, make it right with yourself, that you feel that you've made peace with however the situation went. But, always closing that circle is always the best way.
Oh, it's true. I mean, all the lessons that she taught me as I was growing up, I think when you're that age, as a teenager or as a late teen, you think you know everything. And you don't understand why someone, especially an adult, is trying to tell you the things that they do. But I tell my mom all the time, a lot of what she has taught me is the wisdom that I use in my work too. And I sometimes laugh at myself because I said, oh boy, look, it took me this long to absorb all these lessons. And I bet my mom was saying, see, I told you so.
Well, if she's listening now, you can tell her that she was right.
Oh, she was, and she is.
Aw, which is usually the case, you know. Usually they have wiser, choices that they try to pass along to you for you to be, wiser, not to step in the same mistakes as other people or into a bad situation altogether. So, their wisdom does go far. Whether you take it at that moment or not, eventually you will, and look back and say, I really should have really listened to that, and I would have avoided so many situations.
Yeah. And this isn't to discount the love of a father as well, but there's
this is Mother's Day,
exactly.
So we're focusing on mothers. But
yes.
fathers will when Father's Day comes, we'll talk about that.
But there is a special bond that you have with your mother, and no, I mean it is just it's really something that you can't describe. And now I understand many years later what that bond is like, because I've always wondered what it feels for a mother when she's actually given birth to a child, and how it feels for them when they get sick or when something happens to them and when they worry about their children. I can understand what that feeling is like for them now, because you're more mature in your years and you actually understand what they were trying to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that bond comes even sooner, like from not just from the birth, but like if just say for instance the child is premature. They're always isolated in that little incubator. So apparently there's a practice called kangaroo care, and this practice is when a baby that's premature does not stay in the incubator all the time. You have to take it out once a day or a couple times a day for several hours and put the child up to the mother's chest. But the child has to be either naked or with just a diaper. And you put them up to your chest, and this comforting, chest, skin to skin contact creates a healthy thing for the child. So instead of it being in the incubator getting better that way, it actually gets health benefits from this practice called kangaroo care. So apparently they gain weight. They start to develop, stronger and faster with that particular care. Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting.
And the only way that it works is if they're naked or with a diaper. It will not work otherwise. And you have to do this practice every day for several hours, this specific thing.
So this is for premature babies.
For premature babies specifically.
Kangaroo care.
Yeah, and because they're already so underdeveloped, so it takes months, But that skin to skin contact, as they call it, and it is what they can, categorize as kangaroo care. The skin to skin contact is what makes the benefit of this. Supposedly makes it work. The health benefits are enormous.
That is probably something only a mother could do.
There you go.
I think that is really. That's really telling of what can happen, because I don't think I could see myself doing that to a premature baby, especially. Right. I don't know. I'd probably hear kangaroo care and look for a pouch and try to jump away. Very interesting, though. I never thought about that.
Yeah. So that is an actual practice that apparently people are more inclined to use now, because think about it. If you just keep the child inside the incubator all the time, it has no actual nurturing. You put your hand in there, but that's it. If you take it out, put it on, it's almost like it's still in the wound a little bit, if you think about it.
I guess it is really difficult to recreate whatever it's like in the womb, but I guess the closest would be the contact that it would have. And I guess maybe on the chest, because you can maybe feel the heartbeat.
And maybe that's it. And maybe the fact that it has to be naked or in a diaper, that's the only way that it works. It can't work otherwise.
If only that solution worked for many of life's problems, I'm sure we wouldn't have as many problems. Just lay naked on my chest. It'll be fine. Right. You'll be fine.
As it all gets better from there. And that's exactly what happens. It actually does. Several health benefits happen with this practice. So apparently that is a real thing.
Well,
that bond is...
I'm just glad nobody had to do that for me. I'm sure they'd really resent me. I tried putting him on my chest. He won't stop crying. And he keeps asking for records. Anyway,
because you're a music lover, so that goes to that.
Well, that's another thing too. Whenever I had asked my mom like what she was craving for specific foods, or if she listened to music when she was pregnant with me. Apparently she did. And she craved a lot of cheese and peanut butter, which explains a lot of things, because I love cheese and I love peanut butter. And for some reason, if I'm having trouble sleeping or anything, usually people can't fall asleep with music. But for me, music is my answer to everything. Wow. It really relaxes me. It really energizes me, but it also helps me sleep too. So I guess that thing of, doing that when you're with child, it does actually do something.
It does.
I mean, it did something for me, right?
Apparently,
she must have eaten a lot of peanut butter and cheese.
Do you eat those together?
I don't know. I'm not going to answer that. Maybe I do sometimes. Who wants to know? Who wants to know? No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I do. I do eat them together.
That is an interesting combination. I tell you the truth.
Listen, you're missing half your life if you don't try it.
And that is an interesting thing. And actually, I like peanut butter, but I don't know if I can do the cheese thing together. What do you just dip it?
Don't knock it till you try it.
Is that what you do? You just dip the cheese in the peanut?
I'm not giving away the secrets of the trade. You're just gonna have to discover for yourself.
Let me tell you, there's a new secret that people are. Not secret, but a new recipe. A stick of butter with a fruit roll-up wrapped around it, and you eat it.
A stick of butter
with fruit roll-up wrapped around it. Now, your thing is not as bizarre as this one. That's why I had to top it. Yeah, that's like the thing. And here's the other thing. The stick of butter, you dip it in some spaghetti sauce out of the jar. Not cooked spaghetti sauce. Just crack the jar, dip the stick of butter in there and eat it.
Okay. Let's go back to the kangaroo care before I toss my cookies. Dip it in spaghetti sauce and wrap it in a fruit roll-up.
Can you believe that? I mean, can we say cholesterol off the chain?
Can we just say disgusting?
Disgusting. And it has to be a really almost frozen piece of butter too, by the way. It can't be like it can't have softened up. It has to be, fairly frozen.
See, doesn't the peanut butter and cheese sound a lot better?
Way better.
Sounds very gourmet now, doesn't it?
Way better.
What was your relationship like with your mom, or what is it like?
It's special, and it's always been special. Like I said, my mom's always been the nurturing mother, teacher, friend. So, I mean, it's always just been awesome. Just always been awesome. And she's always taught me so many things about just different things. I can't even say one specific thing that she's ever actually sat down and said, you need to know this or you need to know that. Like, it was always like, look, just one example is she's never been a worrier. Like me, I'm just kind of like, look, it has to be prepared. It has to be this, that. She's not like that. She's spontaneous. So, like, one time we had got lost when I was a kid, and she's like, I said, are we lost? And I'm like, oh, panicky and all this. And she's like, yeah, we are. But you know what? There's a hotel right there. We're just going to go over there, stay for the night, get on the road tomorrow, and find our way home. And that's how she was. And we went and had dinner. We did get lost. So obviously goes, yeah, actually we are lost. And I'm sitting here like 7 years old. Yeah, she's like, yeah, okay. But you know what? It's no big deal. We're going to go have some dinner. We're going to stay at this hotel. And then we're going to get on the road and find our way home tomorrow. And if we get lost again, we'll just stay again. Never did she ever have this worrisome type attitude, which I still haven't mastered. But I noticed that it's better to have that type of attitude than be panicky all the time.
Well, I am sad to say in some ways, but not, because it's kind of funny that my mom's story of getting lost with me at Disney World was not quite as calm as yours. What I remember is that we were actually going to go on a cruise to the Bahamas, somewhere near Disney World. I think we had to drive about 30 minutes to get to the nearest port. Well, at that time, there was no GPS. So it was basically reading a map. And I was reading this map, and she said, just follow this line and tell me where this line is going. So I was following it because it was highlighted. But I wasn't necessarily looking at the right highlighted line the whole time. And instead of proceeding to the port where we were supposed to go, I think I had let her go on to a route that was taking us towards Miami, which was quite a while away from what I remember. She's like, how much longer does it say till we reach the port? And when I had realized as a 10-year-old, I was like, I think I might have not giving you the right direction. And she was very calm. She said, "Okay, we'll figure out. We'll turn it around."
Okay.
We had a time limit. We had to get there, and we made it by the skin of our teeth.
Wow.
And she was okay up until that point, up until we got onto the boat. And I was told that it was my homework from now on to study that.
Oh no!
So you better believe I studied that math. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the first time I drank, because we were allowed to drink on the
Get
boat.
out of here!
Yes, I think that was my first foray into daiquiris.
No way!
And I had no idea there was alcohol in them. So I was having a lot of fun. In addition to getting us lost,
right?
yes. In addition to getting us lost, yes.
That is an interesting story. Very interesting. Wow. Yeah, see, the map thing and all that, my mom just used to just go by the seat of her pants. It's like, oh, that looks like a good direction. Oh, that looks like a good direction. Let's just go this way. That's probably why we were always all over the place.
Yeah, it's not a very good idea, and I think I took after my mom with this, to talk to her if she is driving, because she'll forget to exit. And as you have noticed, sometimes I do the same thing too, even if I know where I'm going. It's like, oh,
because you're so in the middle of talking.
I'm in the middle of talking and getting into what I'm saying.
Interesting.
Anyway, Mom, I bet you're probably listening and thinking, see, I told you, I'm not the only one that's like that. You can be very forgetful too.
Like mother, like son. That's what they say.
Yes.
But a lot of single mothers are, more, so it's like 80% of households now are headed by single mothers. Can you believe that? As opposed to back in the 50s and 60s and before that.
I mean, I think just the evolution of what it means to be a mother. I mean, I've heard stories of what my great grandparents and grandparents were like, and what they believed should be the discipline for their daughters and for their sons, and how it is now. I mean, even to be a single mother now, or even to just be a single working mother now, it's a completely different set of responsibilities and attitude than from 20, 30, or 40 years ago.
True.
Right?
Very true. Things have changed in a big way. Generations, as far as I'm concerned, they want to do things different than what their parents did. Everybody wants to do it different, better, but it ends up being different, either better or worse. And the way that it's gone, in certain directions, not really so much better, to me. But it's always going to be a generation that wants to do it better than the next. And I think that's where we're having the changes right there. It's not staying I'm getting congested, format.
Oh, I understand. I guess what also comes from that too is that, what one parent says about their parent about, I'm not going to do that when I become a parent. Some of that is true, but then I think there are things that are inherent in your parenting that, you want to pass on to the next person.
Exactly. Yeah. And some of those things are good to pass on. And some things should just stay the same. Yeah. Some things should just stay the same. Some things do need to change, but apparently a lot of things are changing. So like I said, after doing some digging though, luckily a lot of things did change, because back in the day, back in like 1916, for instance, there was a book called The Mother and Her Child, published by 2 doctors. And these doctors had suggested that you basically don't handle your child as often as people do now. Handle them as less as possible.
Okay.
Only kiss them on the forehead.
Okay.
Basically, pat them on the head, kiss them on the forehead.
Pat them on the head. Huh?
Do not let them sit on your lap. And let them cry as long as they can possibly cry, because it builds strong lungs.
That must have been what happened to me then, because I enjoy singing, so maybe that's where my lungs developed, from crying hours on end.
Maybe your parents must have took this Eagle's advice.
These 2 doctors' advice. But that's interesting though. I could see how that advice was given, because like I said, I think my great grandparents were like that with my grandparents, and therefore with my parents too, because you don't really see
that lovey-dovey,
the type of affectionate type of attitude that you see now. Although I do notice now, like my parents became much more affectionate with their grandchildren, but not that it wasn't something that they didn't want to show to their own children. But I think, as you see other generations come into play, you become less and less attached to what your upbringing was, and you see a new generation, you're fostering a new generation of people that you want to spoil, you want to treat differently, right? And you're hoping that your children will instill those same ideals, into their children.
Which, like I said, luckily for us that affection thing has changed, because can you imagine the distance? And I can see how a lot of people are, like older people from that generation, are distant. They're not as affectionate because this is what they were told. And back then, you did what you were told. If a doctor suggested it, you did it. If he said, let your kid yell and holler to bring up his, make his lungs strong, you did what he said. Now we know that that's not to be true, obviously. But you did what the doctor said back then. So if he said do it, you did it. But I can see a lot of generations from then not being so much like you said with their kids. So then their kids grow up to be not that way with their own, and then their own end up not being with theirs, but then they're that way with their great-grandkids or their grandkids. It's like a weird dynamic there. Because I guess eventually they realized maybe there was something there to that.
Well, I remember being told, and it being instilled in me when I was a kid, that, you have to be less sensitive, okay, and not fall apart all the time, every time something happens. And I used to think, well, I want to embrace that sensitive side of myself. Yeah. But as I get older and as I continue to work, I see where the benefit of that balance is.
Right.
So I understand why my mom would have said something like that and why she wanted me to toughen up a bit. Because, when, within your family circle and extended family and even friends, you're in a comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I know that this is a lesson she taught me that I didn't really start realizing up until just a few years ago. That, once you're out of that circle of your comfort zone, okay, you can't act and expect to be treated the same way that your family or close family or extended family would treat you in those circumstances.
Sure.
Okay, there's always going to be that bond as family, but when it's happening outside of your circle with other friends that you might not be close to, or even colleagues at work, okay, this is different. Okay, you can't just run to someone and say, he's not being nice to me, she's not being nice to me, she's picking on me. If you don't develop that kind of backbone, so to speak, that's only given through the discipline that your parents give you, most especially, from your mothers, because they have that bond with you, carrying you for so long.
Very true.
Right?
Very
so
true.
I think what they try to teach you in those early years really sticks with you. You may not see the benefit of it right away, but it happens.
Right.
It happened for me.
And it's a very good lesson, I guess, to learn sooner than later.
Well, I just think that women in general, most of them, are role models to me. Okay, they embody this type of courage that I don't think other people, other men, or even other women that haven't bore children couldn't do. It takes a lot to do that, and you have to really be strong altogether. And as I told you earlier in the broadcast, I admire so many of the people, my sister-in-laws, my cousins, all in Canada, in Vegas too, on both sides of the family. It takes a lot to pick yourself up from a situation, whether it's a different country, whether it's a different state, and bring your children over to a different place and start over, maybe having left a husband or a family and having to start all over here again. Okay, and that goes for a lot of even the friends of my mom and the friends of my aunt too. I can't imagine how anyone could do that and still have it all together.
It's like a superhero.
It's the love of a mother.
There you go.
When your mother really cares about what's going to happen to you, she will move heaven and earth, and she will move mountains to make sure you have a good life.
There you go. I totally agree with that. Totally agree. Which is what some mothers did back in the day, because they would literally spend 40 hours a week simply maintaining the house and the family. That was their job. Their job was to make sure they stayed home to take care of the kids when they got home, make sure that they took care of the house. 40 hours a week. People don't even spend that kind of time in their work altogether, but just to maintain your household, that's something. And that was back in the 1910s.
Well, now imagine having to maintain a household and have to have a career too.
Isn't that something?
And at some point,
women
were able to do that.
Yes,
they were able to do that. I don't know how they do it, because I mean, it really, like I said, it takes a special personality to do that.
It sure
The
does.
personality
It
of a mother.
sure does.
Yeah.
And it, not only that, I mean, now luckily for new mothers and stuff, there are podcasts out there for mothers with topics on time management, juggling work and home, and just to help you navigate all kinds of stressful times. So at least they have that resource. They didn't have obviously any of that when we were kids or before that. If you could get on a podcast and they say, look, you're having a stressful day, this is what you do. If you have more than one kid, this is how you manage dealing with them in your work and whatever. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
And it's different types of podcasts. Like I said, some are geared toward just like time management, juggling homework. Some are geared for specific things, stress, whatever. And some are just all around the board, advice altogether. But how convenient is that?
I mean,
you're not just figuring this thing out on your own anymore.
Yeah. And it's also the natural instincts that you have.
Right.
I believe as a mother, not that I am one, but from experience of having so many mother figures in my life, which, it always amazes me just how much wisdom they have. I speak to a lot of my aunt's friends, and I speak to my aunts, and I speak to my mom about different things, and it just always amazes me, like whenever I would have something on my mind that's really boggling me or really weighing me down, just the advice that they give from their own life experience. You don't expect to hear that, and then when you're actually hearing it, at least in my case, it's like a big inspiration to see how strong and how much wisdom is being passed down.
True, very true. I mean, it's something that we need. That's one of those gems that you have to keep in a safe place, because once that gets out and gets lost, it goes away. That's why you've got to keep those certain gems passing along and keep them sacred, because otherwise, just like a lot of other stuff, as evolution happens, those things get lost.
They get lost
in the haystack. So that's one of the things, and we're going to end in very shortly.
Sure.
But how would you like to end on this note with our topic for today?
Well, I think we could talk for hours about this, but we won't, obviously. All I can say is that everybody is lucky to have the mother that they have in their life, regardless of what your experiences have been up until this point. You're really never going to have another mother. You can have people in your life that are like mother figures to you, and by all means, you should honor that. But if you're lucky enough to still have great memories of your own mother and a mother that is still living, all the times that are petty annoyances and frustrations, you'll miss that when they're not there. Yeah. And that's what I want to leave it on. It's a great thing.
So cherish your mothers.
Cherish mothers, and cherish your friends that are mothers, cherish relatives that are mothers. I know firsthand from being a very problematic child that it is not easy for a mother to be a mother. I was an angel the whole time through. And whoever's listening to this and who's known me since I was a kid is probably laughing hysterically. I'm probably going to wait until lightning strikes me. No, that's what I wanted to do. What about you?
Oh, I'd like to leave on the note, like you said, cherish your mothers while you have them. And just, honor them while you have them, and just pass along those good nuggets of, information and advice and love and care and all that. Pass it on. Keep passing it on so that it can continue on to go down, that we don't lose a lot of these good moral fibers that we have. Just keep passing them down.
I agree. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day to your mother and my mother and
everyone.
Thank you very much. Well, we're going to close on this Sunday, and we'll be back every Sunday at 11 a.m. and 2 Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be on KBCM Live, and just join us. Stay positive, test negative.